This episode of The Best Ever is brought to you by Inspired Villages, sponsor of the RadioTimes.com Soap Awards 2024. Head to radiotimes.com/Soap Awards for more.
If you're at that height, you have to kill off people we care about.
I think to be great, you have to kill great.
Who is the best ever soap villain? We're about to crown the nastiest piece of work in all of Soapland. Bryan Kirkwood, welcome to The Best Ever. Formerly executive producer on EastEnders and Hollyoaks, still writing for EastEnders, of course. Your soap pedigree is strong, so in your opinion, what are the ingredients of a great soap villain?
It's a good question. I think that it's about entertainment value. I think we must always remember that while our primary function as making soaps is to entertain the audience, and I think a soap villain has to bring the audience in. They have to have a relationship with the audience, be able to wink at them a few times and say, we're in on this together. And I think they have to have an impact to people that we care about. I think that's the most important thing, that what they do that's villainous has to have real stakes and have a kind of a ripple effect on the community that we know and care about.
Gaby Roslin, welcome to The Best Ever, a broadcasting legend and EastEnders superfan, I understand.
Never missed an episode in almost 40 years.
So many great soap villains across the history of the soaps, so no spoilers just yet, but how easy or difficult was it to pick just one, your absolute favourite?
It was incredibly difficult because I wanted to keep it up to date, because there's one up-to-date one now who I think is brilliantly portrayed, and just you're watching the things that villain is doing. Then I wanted to go back in time, and there were two, and I couldn't decide between two, and I've gone for one of the two, but there was something that happened between the two of them.
Intriguing. Okay. Enigmatic. We'll give you a chance to talk about your honourable mentions as well.
Thank you.
Helen, in your opinion, when does a character achieve true soap villain status? When do they cross the line from lovable rogue to a character we just love to hate?
I think it's when the Twitter fan accounts pop up, right? I think that's the modern take anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's someone who you don't even have to really know much about soaps, but you know about that villain. You might not watch the soaps every single night, but you know exactly who someone's talking about when they mention that one name. And I think it's someone who has massive cultural impact and gets you to watch the show.
Well, whoever emerges triumphant here today will be awarded our coveted Best Ever trophy, a prize second only to a RadioTimes.com Soap Award. But before we hear each of your picks, Radio Times readers have been having their say on the best ever soap villain. So on X, Edward Perkins picked Neighbours' Paul Robinson, while Kana plumped for Hollyoaks' Silas. On Facebook, Colin Roberts went for Brookside's Barry Grant, and Bobby Balderston. Bobby Balderston's vote went to Coronation Street's Pat Phelan. Pure evil, he said, but a great character. You can still have your say on the best ever soap villain. Either comment on the video below or at Radio Times on Facebook, X or Threads using the hashtag best ever soap villain. But the time has come. Bryan, we'll start with you. Please reveal your pick for the best ever soap villain.
I would like to put forward Coronation Street's Richard Hillman.
Ooh, hard to beat.
It's a strong opener. It is strong. Tell us why.
I was a baby storyliner at Corrie when Richard joined the show, and I just think he, on many levels, he changed the face of Coronation Street at the time. Corrie wasn't having the best time up against kind of resurgent EastEnders, and he put the show back on the map, and the impact he had on the Platt family. Everyone knew and loved Gail, everyone knew and loved Sarah Lou and David, and in comes this kind of suave, distinguished financial advisor. Gail thinks all her Christmases have come at once. And it was soap's first serial killer, and the show went there. It went to places it had never had before. And within a couple of years, the show was getting 19 million viewers again, and it would swept the board at every soap awards. And it was glorious fun to watch. It was riotously entertaining. He actually only killed 2 people in the end. He walked away from a third, and left them to die. But there were so many epic moments, you know, the kind of an epic lines as well. The Norman Bates with the briefcase.
Yeah.
You should have stayed at the party, Maxine. Really brutal, attacking Emily Bishop with a crowbar.
Yeah.
And then when the car goes into the canal at the end, it, you know, some stories don't quite manage to kind of climax in the right way, but
stick the landing.
That show really delivered.
It's interesting as well because he doesn't come into it as some raving serial killer. There's a real escalation to his villainy. As you say, he leaves Dougie to die initially, then he kills his ex-wife in a sort of fit of rage, but then gradually he becomes more calculating and more Machiavellian, doesn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. And he arrived as Alma's cousin at Alma's funeral. We never actually worked out whether he was or not. So it was interesting to see the story unfold both on screen and I mean, growing up on Coronation Street behind the scenes as I was then, to see the writers kind of seize the opportunity and decide this is what the show needs now, and let's go for this mysterious stranger, and then just watch these masters at work kind of create this story and see the impact it had. It was thrilling.
And as someone who's worked on the soaps, I imagine it's always tricky to decide, right, how long do we allow this storyline to play out? Richard was only actually on screen for a little under 2 years, I think. But do you think it says something that, all the same, that character still has an enormous impact and is still remembered to this day?
Absolutely, and it's always one of the hardest decisions when you're, you know, talking about how long should a character or a story run. There's never the perfect answer. Richard Hillman had a beginning and a middle and an end, and as you say, just under 2 years. But we saw the growth, we saw the turning points, and it's really hard. I remember the first sort of story agenda going out without his name on it, and we were terrified. What are we going to do? What are we going to put on the telly?
Life after Richard.
But it's hard to know when to call time on a story.
Gaby, Helen, that is a very strong opener from Bryan. Tell me why I shouldn't just give him that trophy right off the bat.
Because I think you need to look beyond our beloved friends and look towards our beloved villain.
Very good.
I didn't practice that. My choice is someone who, you know who she is from one name only, like Beyonce, like Kylie, like Madonna. She's an icon. It's, of course, Mina from Emmerdale. I think with Mina, I think you get someone completely different to Richard, plays into the camp, plays into the hysteria, plays into the fun, plays into the silliness. And I think from there, you get an amazing character.
And Mina is a relatively recent addition to the pantheon of soap villains. So Paige Sandu appeared on Emmerdale from 2020 to 2022. Does she already rank among the greats?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, like with Richard, you know, you don't need to be on the soap a long time to be very impactful. I think from the second that Mina left, everyone was wanting her back immediately, as, you know, you feel that you're missing something. I think the soap was just richer with her in it. You had her killing 4 people, one of them off screen, big characters as well. Liana on her 18th birthday, Andrea Tate in a maze fire, and Ben Tucker smacking him over the head with a boat oar. All iconic, right? And all had massive impact on the story. Created storylines for the characters who were involved with those other characters, and went on to have memorable moments as well. You know, she was dancing around singing Toxic by Britney Spears after just committing a murder. We had her final court scene showdown where she grabbed her sister by the throat, was ready to stab her. Absolutely iconic, brave, bold storytelling, and impeccably portrayed by Paige Sandu. That's
got to be a difficult balance to get right as well, surely. As you say, you want these villains to have a real impact on characters that we love, but then it's, but if we lose that character, if they kill that character, what is the loss to the soap? Is that something else that's...
Yeah, I mean, and I'm coming at it from as a viewer, which I am, and I think that's really important when you're sort of involved making the shows in any way, is, I mean, I just can't stand it when serial killers kill people who were only created to be killed.
Yeah.
I just think it's a bit boring.
Yeah.
And there is obviously a big risk that you lose the family silver when you're killing off important people. But and you know, to take Maxine, Tracy Shaw was one of the biggest stars in Coronation Street at the time, and that was huge. and the impact felt within the characters, within the world was massive. So I think for me, a killer, that kind of villain, if you're at that height, you have to kill off people we care about.
I think to be great, you have to kill great. But with Mina, you know, just going back to arguing for Mina, I think, you know, the great thing about her was the unpredictability. She could have killed off any one of those cast members, from, you know, legacy characters to newer characters. It didn't matter. I think you genuinely felt that sense of danger around her, all while having the camp and fun, and you could really connect with her in that sense. With Richard, I think you sort of knew it was more calculated. You knew why he was killing, who he was killing, and for what reason. I think Mina was a psychopath, and we loved her for it.
And spoilers, but Mina did face justice in the end. When a character is that much fun, do you wish that they would keep getting away with it just to keep them on screen that little bit longer?
I think so, but I think you don't want to over-egg the pudding. I think you've got to end it while it's on a high. And Mina, I mean, as I said before, you know, she spawned 1 million Twitter accounts with people just absolutely obsessed with her.
Yeah.
I think her star was risen fully, truly. And I think, you know, ending her at that point means you wanting more.
Yeah.
It means that you're still looking out. Even recently, there was a little small mention of Mina, set the internet alight just because you want her back so much. Yeah. I think if you got tired of her, you wouldn't still have that impact.
Gabby?
Oh, this was difficult. Unsurprisingly, it's a character or characters from EastEnders. It was a very difficult decision.
Well, before you reveal your top pick, do you want to run through some of your honourable mentions?
Okay, well, you were talking about recent characters, and I think at the moment, obviously every moment of EastEnders is brilliant, because, did I mention I've never missed an episode? But I think Nish, I think he's a brilliant character. I went to interview him, and I was telling Brian, I actually was slightly scared. But he's manipulative, he's nasty, but he has that charm. When he walks into a room, he owns that room, and he's aware of what he's got, and the storyline and how it's twisted and turned, and you don't want him to ever win, yet you want him to carry on.
Yes.
And that's what you were saying before.
Yeah.
So I think he's brilliant new baddie.
It's a brilliant performance, that one. And I don't know if anyone else remembers, there was a show on Channel 4 years ago called Teachers.
Yeah, Teachers.
And that actor was in it, Navin
The
Chowdhury.
opposite.
And playing this sort of totally socially
Sweet, lovely,
incompetent teacher. And I was like, this guy, I'm not sure he can put, but he's so good at playing that very smooth, very calculating villain, isn't he?
Well, and also, Brian, you're writing for him, I presume, at the moment as well. For a viewer, we want more. I mean, the fact that he nearly, Heather, sorry, that's the real person's name.
Yeah.
I love her.
Eve.
So much.
Yeah,
I love Eve so much. I was sort of screaming at the television. Didn't want any of that. But yet, I want more of the two of them. Can you write that? The two of them together.
Okay.
Any other honourable mentions?
Yes, when I woke up this morning, I felt really bad that I hadn't mentioned Archie.
Oh, again, iconic.
I mean, brilliant,
because
he affected so many storylines, and obviously Peggy's storyline. And taking the Vic, the Vic is so central to EastEnders that I felt I needed to give him an honourable mention. And one of the ex-executive producers, who were a mutual friend of ours, I said to him who I'm choosing, and I said, but I'm thinking of, and we were talking about Archie this morning, and I thought, I have to mention him. It would be wrong not to.
And again, Larry Lamb, you watch him in Gavin and Stacey, and then in EastEnders, and it's just incredible, just totally night and day. But let's get to it. Who is, in your opinion, the best ever soap villain?
Well, because, funnily enough, you've gone for a woman. I think lots of the soap villains are sort of men. Classically, they're men. But my goodness me, she's camp. She's come back many, many times. And that scene with Barry is something I will never forget. Janine Butcher, obviously played by, I think it's 3 different actresses. Charlie Brooks, superb. When she's back, I just think, no! And I not her as an actress, but I just think, Janine is back. What's she going to do now? And even how they got Danny out, it was just, I'm using the real people's, you can tell I interview them as real people.
Yeah, but Mick Carter's exit.
Mick, the way she got Mick out and all of that, and that was, it was just, don't do that. You don't do that. You don't do that to that family. but also that moment with Barry and also with Pat Butcher, you know, there was he was nasty, but you could watch it happening, and there was that look that Janine had, Charlie had as Janine, where you knew that she was, you could see her brain working, and you could just see her manipulating a situation, and I'd be screaming at the television and think, why don't they realise what she's doing? Yeah. But I love her for it. And also, we've never seen a dead body because she's not dead. She's away again in prison. I hope that she is back. I didn't know if I know we're going off on a tangent, but I didn't know if I'd love Cindy coming back. Oh, yes, I do. So, yeah, I think Janine, and also anywhere people who say, I never watched a soap. Oh, you watch, I've never seen it. And you say Janine Butcher. Oh, I know Janine Butcher.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And she has this laundry list of crimes. She pushed Barry off a cliff. She accidentally killed Danielle Jones. She collaborated with Archie Mitchell.
Archie, yes.
Implicated in the death of Michael Moon, another great EastEnders villain. Feuded with Pat, but practically with every woman on the square.
Every single one.
But what's interesting, I think, about Janine, as opposed to maybe like the cold-heartedness of Richard or the just psychomania of Mina, is that she does have a heart somewhere.
She does.
Somewhere
She's very
in there.
real. And also sometimes you see her weaknesses. And I love it when the scriptwriters write those lovely little arcs that come in. So somebody, in the same way as Nish, right, now, you just see that, I don't believe he's got a heart problem. Not true. You set that doctor up. But you can see that they've got heart. And I think that's important, even though that heart is very broken. She's obviously very broken and very bitter. And there's a lot of stuff from her childhood. But yet, she's so manipulative. So manipulative.
Is that part of what makes that character great? That she's not just out and out evil, that there is a softer side to her that you glimpse.
To Richard. And I think it was a really good call. But you not just going into you get the person. And I have to say Charlie Brooks is brilliant as Janine Butcher.
Right, it is time for me to sum up, and I've been given a very difficult decision to make. So thank you all for that. Brian, you said that Coronation Street's Richard Hillman was the best ever soap villain. Gaby, your choice was Janine Butcher. Helen, you were backing Emmerdale's Mina all the way. It is a very difficult choice. I think they all rank among the very best soap villains. But who is going to emerge triumphant and be awarded a coveted best ever trophy? What it boils down to for me is a character who, as we've discussed, did have a relatively short stint, but I do think is iconic, has made such an impact.
That means it's not Janine.
And I'm still in it.
It's still talked about to this day. So I am going to say that the best ever soap villain is officially Norman Bates with a briefcase. It's Richard Hillman. Congratulations to Brian.
Thank you. Well, I'm thrilled to accept this on behalf of another Brian Capron, who played Richard Hillman so brilliantly.
You know what? I will always love Janine. There are so many good soap villains. And let's be honest, he was very good. But Brian writes my favourite soap, so I'm not going to argue with Brian. But Janine is very special. She's a brilliant character, absolutely brilliant. So I'll stand by Janine and Archie and all the others who have been through EastEnders.
I can't be too mad because Richard's actually my favourite soap character of all time, so I'm all right with it. But yeah, I think Mina's a close second.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Best Ever. What did you make of our verdict, and who do you think is the best ever soap villain? Let us know on X @Radio Times. To watch more episodes of The Best Ever, head to radiotimes.com/The Best Ever, and if you're listening to the podcast, you can subscribe and review the show on your podcast outlet of choice. That's all for now, but join us again soon for more of The Best Ever.